Hello and welcome to Use Next Plenary Session. My name is Speaker Rorschach. With me I have the members of the House as well as foreign dignitaries and interested parties. Today we have an exciting session. We have to present a House of Motions presented by the government and at the same time a naming convention bill which will be represented, and actually in this case here presented again by a government official. With that being said, we have also a bill well, in this case here, Mr. Helvatorius, the Honorable Member Helvatorius, who is also the bill's author, is not currently present with us, but if he joins in due to time difference, etc., we will be able to proceed with that. With that being said, I will be moving the floor to the Prime Minister of Enadian to actually present, I believe in this case here, the House motions of the 31st of May 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I will be presenting motion number 1.
And motion number 2 will be presented by the Honourable Member Orangemain, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. All right, the floor will be moving to the Prime Minister of Enadian. Thank you. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, the House motion number 1 is the consideration and the affirmation of my confidence in Valois to serve on as a full-time High Court judge within Enadian. It is the view of the government that his time as acting judge has reflected that he has the ability and competency to do so, and following the recent vacation of a certain political office by a former member of this House, there is no scope for a new magistrate to take his place, allowing him to assume the role full-time. The motion simply reads, this House recognising the need for effective delivery of justice in Enadian, does confirm the Right Honourable Prime Minister's recommendation to His Majesty for the appointment of His Honour Riom de Valois France as High Court Judge in the Enadian High Court on the 31st of May 2020. I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. I would recommend that next time a little bit more slowly, so we can everybody can hear you. With that being said, I will be opening the floor for debate in this case here for the House of Commons, unless somebody would like to actually move the motion up to actually voting in this process.
I beg to move.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. All right. So, honourable members of the Parliament, the motion number 1 has already been posted in the Parliament channel. Please cast your votes.
A slow start today.
Yeah. 3 ayes so far. Anybody else? 4. Okay.
Monkey.
Oh shit. Doing a me now.
For God's sake. I think, Mr. Speaker, we will need to defer open voting for 24 hours.
Yes, we will have to. Okay, so this is going to stay open for about, well, 24 hours, I believe, are sufficient for this specific motion. We will be moving to motion number 2, presented by the Honourable Member Orangemain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This House, I'm going to read motion number 2. So, this House recognizes the need for warm, convivial relations between Enadian and our allies, does welcome them openly, warmly, and enthusiastically to address this House in the future. Essentially, they weren't able to make it, so we were just saying that they're welcome to address this House in the future.
Yes, that's correct. The chair of this house welcomed, and in this case here delivered several invitations to foreign delegations. One of them was the Prime Minister of Senegal, who was expected to come today and deliver a speech on the behalf of the Enadian people. Due to medical concerns that he was having, he wasn't able to actually attend today, and he begged to reschedule to a later point. With that being said, unless there isn't any request for a discussion on motion number 2, I request basically to move to a vote in the second here.
Second.
Thank you very much. Honourable members of the Parliament, you are eligible to cast your votes right now, so go ahead.
need to defer 24 hours.
Yes, we will move this one for 24 hours as well. I wish to apologize to the attending parties in this case here. Due to time difference, a couple of members weren't able to actually attend today. We have the record shows that we have 5 votes aye for motion number 1 and 5 ayes for motion number 2. We need at least 2 more in order to proceed and consider these House of Motions actually valid in this case here. With that being said, I believe that we are ready to move to the second time of discussion in this case here, which is the naming conventions bill. It will be presented by you, Mr. Prime Minister, correct?
No, I have a point of order though.
Go ahead.
To note the absence of the Foreign Affairs Minister this evening, he is on an extended leave of absence of a week due to personal reasons, and he's excused up with the Whip's office. And I believe Mr. Speaker was made aware via government channels. He is apologetic about the urgency of his departure, and he will return presently. In the meantime, Mr. Helvatorius, the honourable member, who is also not present this evening, will be exercising a proxy vote on the minister's behalf, just so the House is aware of that when votes are cast, as was lodged by the Whip's office earlier on today. And Mr. Lincoln will present the legislation, the naming conventions bill.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much. All right, whenever we're ready, who will be presenting the naming conventions bill?
That'll be me, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honourable member, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, I'm proud to present to the House the Naming Conventions Bill, which will give clarification and outline the different terms and processes within our democracy and judicial system. Starting off with Article 1, it will cover primary legislation, specifically what a bill, act, and a motion is, whereas Article 2 covers secondary legislation, which includes amendments and referendums, which are also initiated by the House of Commons. Article 3 covers the different judicial mechanisms in regards to warrants, writs, and levies from differing judicial bodies, such as the Ministry of Justice and the Crown Prosecution Service, and also officials like magistrates. Article 4, which is the most lengthy of all the articles, specifies statutory mechanisms involving freedom of information requests and responses to those requests, the various types of government and non-government memos, and of course statements. The latter part of Article 4 includes notices by the Electoral Commission during an election period as well. So that, Mr. Speaker, in short, is broadly the gist of the Naming Conventions Bill, and I commend this statement to the House.
Thank you. All right, with that being said, I open the floor for discussion between the members of the House. Yes, the Prime Minister has raised her hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also wish to put on record that the Minister has worked incredibly hard to deliver this legislation, noting the concerns of a few citizens about the naming conventions of bills once they'd passed into law in the Parliamentary Codex. And I note that the article outlined in Section 1, Article 1 of the primary legislation section, will address this to give clarity to citizens where they need it to ensure that we have a smooth, robust, and clear system in place for parliamentary records. I also would like to thank the United Australian States for bringing this to the government's attention, and I'm sure the Minister would join me in saying so. I understand that some members may not have had the time to fully digest this legislation. However, the government views it as absolutely paramount to ensure this legislation passes with great speed, to allow sufficient changes to be made to clarify certain areas of the Codex and certain statutory implications and statutes that have to come into force with the election of the new officials to the Magistrate Court and to officials in regard to memos and record keeping within government. Moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The floor is again open for discussion. Any other points? Honourable Member Orange Main, go ahead.
I would like to ask a question to the Prime Minister.
Yes.
So I was just curious on what would the Prime Minister's thoughts on how this bill can help Canadian citizens both understand what the government is doing and helping them be engaged with the political machinations of what our Parliament is doing. Thank you.
The Prime Minister, ready to answer?
Of course, I will respond to my honourable friend, who I have known for some time. No, this bill delivers. So this bill delivers what we need to do, what I would say is clarity to citizens. It allows them to see what the government's doing. It allows them to have names, instruments, actions that are taken. It allows there to be a legal understanding there should anything ever need to be reviewed. It also allows for a clear-cut paper trail and allows for the implementation of freedom of information requests as mandated in the Constitution. So we're delivering on a key manifesto commitment here of being open and welcoming as the government. We're also being clear and honest with citizens, as you can see in Article 4 under statutory mechanisms. 4B and 4A guarantee the terming of freedom of information requests. And to quote 4B directly, a formal response to a freedom of information request will be termed as an informative government response to a freedom of information request. A statement of the Minister of the Crown will be termed a ministerial statement. Essentially, the legislation works because it gives citizens the ability to know that they can request information to the government as long as it does not compromise national security. And we will do our best to be as open as possible. So I think that's a major innovation in politics for Canadian citizens and allows them to have the clarity they need and the trust in their government moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay, the floor is again open for discussion. Any points? Okay, if no points are being made so far, I believe that we can actually move ahead to an actual vote in this case.
I beg to move.
Do I have a second? Lovely. All right. Well, honourable members of the Parliament, the floor is yours. You may cast your votes. Okay, we have 4 ayes so far. The honourable member Braden is voting with an abstention. Okay, well, with that being said, the floor will be open for another additional 24 hours for this specific bill. In this case here, we have another bill which the author is actually not with us today. With that being said, any other points of business?
Ministerial statement, Minister for Home Affairs on a citizenship registry update.
Okay, the Secretary of State, Mr. Lincoln, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So currently at this moment I am, well not at this moment, but in the past I have been updating the registry with the new intake of citizens, and we are surpassing 400 and we are heading even, what could be to 500, given it some time. It's not directly in alphabetical order, but of course we are keeping it as proper as we can, and I'll be progressing with that in the coming weeks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you, Secretary of State. Any other points of business?
Statement from the Prime Minister.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to note the preceding Enadian elections on the record today that will conclude at midnight this evening. As I understand it, the polling will remain open for the considerable extension due to late start for the House of Commons by-election, the King election, and the Enadian, I always forget the name of the other one, magistrate election, which will proceed henceforth. I do apologise to members of the House for speaking a bit fast today. I'm a little tired and for hard work and busy evening I had last night networking with members of my real-life circle, if you will. What I will say, though, is that I'm very proud of the way these elections have been conducted efficiently by the Electoral Commission, and I'd like to thank and put on record that the Honourable Sidonia, member of this House, stepped in to assist the Honourable Liz Bain, the Electoral Commissioner of Enadia, when he was on leave, and ensured that these elections could take place in an orderly and timely fashion. I think it is worth thanking the member for that contribution, so I wish to put that on the record. Additionally, I'd like to thank my colleagues over at the Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Roleplay who have worked hard. And I do extend apologies on behalf of the Minister of Roleplay for his absence this evening. He has a report due at midnight, and he is running several hours behind, from what I'm aware at this time. He's playing Terraria, according to his thing, but I have actually seen the report he's written. So I will stand by him on that comment for now. And I'd like to acknowledge the presence of one of our parliamentary candidates for this election, Roma Sparta, in the House tonight, and I very much hope he is victorious in the election and he joins us on these benches moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Okay, with that being said, honourable members of the Parliament, any comments or any points of discussion before we adjourn today's meeting? Okay. No.
I beg to move for adjournment, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. I was actually following the discussion in the public side in this case here. We have the honorable member and His Excellency, the Ambassador of LCN Denver, who wishes to
Oh,
make
well,
his presence recognized as a guest. And thank you so much for presenting yourselves today. We look forward to LCN's speech in the Parliament, in the House of Commons in this case here.
in response to that, Mr. Speaker, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do, of course, note the ambassador's presence, and I do apologise for having overlooked that. We have a good partnership with LCN, and we look forward to working with them moving forward. And I am very much, as all members of this house, I'm sure, looking forward to the address that you will give to us moving forward. I do apologise for my past speaking again, but I'm really tired and I have a very sore throat. So I do apologise for rapid adjournment there, but I maybe got slightly ahead of myself. But thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Prime Minister. Okay. With that being said, any other points of business before we conclude today's session? I like how the ambassador said good night already. All right. Well, with that being said, I am raising the question to actually finish today's session. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
All right. Thank you so much. With that being said, today's session has been concluded. Thank you so much for tuning in with Enadian's Parliament. The post will be made on YouTube as well, and we look forward to your comments. Take care.